Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for being here with us for the 8th edition of the Edible Cities Network Global Lunch Talks. My name is Eddie, and I have been part of the projects coordination team in the Humboldt University in Berlin since September 2020. Today, we'll be talking about building a network of green initiatives for resilience and increased impact. And we have here with us Paul de Graaf from Groen 010, who will tell us about their experiences in Rotterdam. But before we give the word to Paul, I would like to shortly introduce the EdiCitNet project to those of you who are not familiar with it. So the Edible Cities Network project is a 5-year project funded by the EU. However, it got a 6-month extension and now is running until the end of February 2024. It is an innovation action, not a normal research project, which means that we have a lot of field work and hands-on action, and we need to produce real-life results. The project is organized in Work 8 packages, and we have 35 international partner organizations. Our partner organizations, as you can see here, are a mixture between 11 cities, which we will learn more about in a minute, 11 research institutes, 8 NGOs, and 5 businesses. So the main goal of the Edible Cities Network project is to mainstream edible city solutions for more socially inclusive, sustainably productive, biodiversity-friendly, resilient, and healthy cities. How do we do that? So we do it through what are the edible city solutions for those of you who don't know it. So there are all forms of different forms of urban farming, food production, distribution, and consumption. And they use innovative principles of ecological design, closed material, and energy flows. Just for you to visualize it better, some real-life examples of edible city solutions are city beekeeping or sheep farming, just as well as community cooking and eating, green facades and high-tech indoor farming. They also include community gardens and urban farms, innovative forms of food distribution, and shops and restaurants offering city-grown food. So this slide is just to make it very clear that the project is not just about urban farming, but everything that involves the urban food system. As any other form of natural-based solutions, edible city solutions have a lot of benefits, such as the environmental benefits of supporting the heat island mitigation, the nutrient and water cycling, and improving biodiversity by having different crops in the city, and also giving foraging to pollinators. There are also social benefits because ECSs bring people together and empower local communities to overcome social problems. Just to think about the fact how cooking and eating together brings individuals that otherwise might not have encountered each other. And as well, they have economic benefits as they create new green businesses and jobs. So the cities, we have 5 frontrunner and 6 follower cities, and they're spread all around the globe. As you can see here, our frontrunner cities are Andernach and Berlin in Germany, Havana in Cuba, Oslo in Norway, Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And the follower cities are Carthage in Tunisia, Guangzhou in China, Lomé in Togo, Montevideo in Uruguay, San Feliu in Spain, and San Pedro-Grigorici in Slovenia. What has been done in the frontrunner cities is that there are 6 living labs being developed there. I know we have 5 frontrunner cities, but in Berlin, there are 2 living labs. And in those living labs, edible city solutions are tested under real-life conditions to strengthen socio-ecological and economical resilience. On the other hand, in follower cities, there are 6 master plans being developed to tackle specific urban social challenges and help ensure the mainstreaming and upscaling of edible city solutions in the long term. So basically, they're applying the lessons learned from the frontrunner cities into the follower cities. However, today we're focusing on living labs and frontrunner cities. So let's just see a little bit more about our living labs. The living lab in Oslo in Norway, first of all, I have to say every living lab has a different goal. The living lab in Oslo is located in the gardens of the historical Linderud farm, and where barren land had been converted in a community garden, and also for green entrepreneurs to develop their businesses. So this living lab aims at piloting ECS that provides social and economic value. It's about running experiments that create opportunities for citizens and social entrepreneurs. It facilitates knowledge transfer, networking, and empowering local citizens to utilize undervalued resources, building on the work of Oslo's urban renewal program, and it uses synergies emerging from the Oslo's involvement in green transformation. The Living Lab in Berlin, we have two. One of them is in the outer district of Hellersdorf, where a lot of new apartment blocks are being developed. And the aim of around the historic goods garden, and the idea of the Living Lab is to connect the newcomers with old residents and integrate edible landscape into the newly built apartment complex, as well as reviving and developing the existing community garden by attracting more locals to participate and co-create. In the district of Neukölln, there is another Living Lab in the new San Jacobi Cemetery, which is still an active cemetery. And there, the idea is to integrate a community garden in this still active cemetery. But it also explores ideas for economic sustainability of community garden and encourages the participation of more diverse local communities, as the district of Neukölln has residents with lots of different socioeconomical backgrounds. In the city of Landenach in Germany, which was already an edible city, the idea is to shift the dynamics of the local edible city movement from a top-down to a bottom-up approach. It invites the general public to engage more intensively in the maintenance and development of edible city solutions, and increases the participation of specific types of people, displaced people, elderly people, young children. There are different edible city solutions throughout the city. In the old town, and also in a community garden in the outskirts where people can have their plot and participate. And our Living Lab in Havana, which is a city with a lot of tradition in urban farming already. The idea is to combine science and technology and innovation with traditional knowledge of local farmers. There's modular aquaculture system and water reuse systems being developed. There is a fruit tree planting program, a mini industrial program, and international exchange with the Edible City Solutions community. And last Living Lab is in Rotterdam, and its aim is to set up a citywide umbrella organization of not only edible, but green initiatives in general, with more than 200 in the city. And with that said, I'm going to give the word to Paul now, as he can tell us better about what have they learned in Rotterdam.
Okay, thank you, Eddie, for this broad introduction. So I'm gonna share my screen, and so let's see. Oh, yes. Okay. Cool. Okay. Yes. I hope you can all see my screen. Yes. Great. So I'm Paul de Graaf. I'm one of the members of the coordination team of the Living Lab Rotterdam. And we'll tell you a bit more about how we grew or are growing a network, because I like the title was building a network, but actually it's more about growing. It's also we're inspired by nature, and it's a slow process, and I'll take you along in our experience. So Rotterdam, for those people who don't know, it's a harbor city. It's within Dutch context, it's a big city. It's very urban, high rises. A lot of there is green, but it's usually hidden behind the buildings. So it's a very stony city as well. And it has a focus on the large scale, also in relation to food. So there's a lot of food coming through Rotterdam into Europe through the container, but inside the city, green was not such an issue. But it's also in Rotterdam. There's a lot of there's actually a history of initiatives trying to establish edible city solutions within the inner city and the different areas, the different neighborhoods. Well, you have the allotment gardening, which is a 100-year-old tradition, but also if we're talking about more modern initiatives, re-establishing a different way of looking at green, participative green, involving people in their surroundings, and also introducing the topic of food. Well, that goes back at least to the 2000s and has been growing over time. I myself was part of an initiative called Edible Rotterdam, which tried to represent this idea of urban agriculture in the city. We tried to start an association, but that association died out, which can also happen. But still, a lot of these initiatives are active. So Rotterdam is also a city of initiatives, of green initiatives even. This is a project in Schiebroek, where different small plots were made in public space with the inhabitants. There's a CSA within the city borders on a former schoolyard. The Stadsboerin, the city farmer, she is growing food for about 120 households. I myself am also part of a cooperative making food forests, growing food forest gardens in and around Rotterdam. There's an herbal garden in the city, the Stadskruidentuin Rotterdam Mint, the Rotterdamse Munt, which has a permanent place in public space with what they are doing. There's the Green Connection, which is actually also, again, a small network of initiatives in the west of Rotterdam, combining around the combination of health and green. And there's the Peace Garden Pompenburg, which is also part of a group of gardens by people called Groengoed. And that's just a small pick of the initiatives in the city. And so the main goal of our living lab is a bit different from the other living labs, in that we already had a lot of initiatives offering edible city solutions. But for us, the main challenge was how to organize these initiatives. So the main goal is a reproducible process for engaging and organizing edible cities solution initiatives in a way that ensures their continuity, and in that way improves their positive impact on the city. Yeah, so that was already from the start, that was the idea, but in the beginning the municipality was the main partner of the EU project, but they decided to step out for several reasons, and that's when we were asked as initiatives ourselves to do the living lab, which was an interesting moment for us, because it was in a way a first step into organize ourselves, and it made it also a very urgent question. So there we are. We were asked to take the lead. Then, of course, there's a formal aspect to that you have to have an organization that can lead it. And there was already an association called Groen 010, Green 010. 010 is the area code of Rotterdam, which started in 2017. And a bit like Edible Rotterdam, they started out and they did some very interesting things. They also were trying to actively lobby with politics in Rotterdam, and also achieved some success there. And then they also sort of slowed down a bit. So it was a sleeping organization at the time EdiCitNet came by. So we decided that would be a good vehicle for, at least for the duration of the living lab, to start working on our goal. And then the living lab would show if the association would also have a role after the living lab, or if we would organize in another way. So these are the people that started the living lab. So we were part of the process, but we were very much a coordination team. We felt a responsibility to do this on behalf of all the initiatives. So that's the first question, from how to involve a network from a bottom-up viewpoint and do it democratically and inclusively, because we were aware that we were, on the one hand, already representing green initiatives, and on the other hand, we were just 5 people that had to try and engage the other initiatives. So we made up this process, a process divided in 3 steps, which started with a self-research, and then a process of self-organization, and then a more active phase with work groups around themes that came out of these previous 2 steps. So I'll tell a bit about that. To start with, a self-research, because why organize? Because there's a lot of ideas about why to organize, but we wanted to know by having interviews with all the people with different green initiatives. We had a long list of people that we wanted to interview and ask them, okay, what do you think about when you think about collaboration, about organization, about and what are the problems that you run into that these could help solve? So we had people interviewing each other, and then with the guidance of researchers from Wageningen University that had some guiding questions. So we really tried to make dialogues and from that we made an analysis. Okay, what are recurring perspectives? What are the recurring questions? So we had 4 sub themes that we translated into action perspectives that we wanted to go on working with. So, and that became working groups later on. So I tell a bit more about that further on. So what we also had to do was to make had this process, how to and the structure for this process, how to organize the organization. So we were the coordination group on the you can see it on the top left. Then we had the working groups. We had external stakeholders that we wanted to include, and then we had the network meetings where we wanted that were open to all people that thought themselves to be part of the network. So, and these were slightly overlapping, of course, and also what we so this is what we thought at the beginning. This is how we're going to do it. And then you see that this is a dynamic organic process where the working groups become more central. The coordination group tries to step back a bit. Network meetings become important because these are the places where we take formal decisions. So a bit like in an association, you have members and you would ask them once a year to come by at a membership meeting to make decisions. But by lack of members, because the Groenel team had never come as far as that they would have that they had members. So we were, but through the process we tried to mimic this idea of what you call it, of membership and of ownership of the process. So, and that's very much an internal process also. And then we tried wherever possible also to involve external stakeholders. So basically, what did we do? We had network meetings. We tried to do them in different places, different, if possible, outdoors. And meet up and have the working groups tell what are they doing, and share that with the others. And then also try to see, is everybody still on board? Do we still understand this process? Can we be part of that? And then the work groups could, after each network meeting, go on with their agenda if people had and with the feedback that they got from the network meeting. And we had some stakeholder meetings as well. Which were for a wider audience, also to get them involved, and also to keep, also to see in a way, that was also a place where you can search the edge of, okay, when are people part of the network? Are they part of the stakeholders? Do people feel, how do they, the other people that we perceive as other stakeholders, do they feel part? Do they see themselves as a stakeholder, or would they be part of the network? So we would see how we can work, how we can involve them. So, but the most energy in the project so far is within the working groups. Very early on, we had this. We presented this self-research. We said we have 5 action perspectives, and we had people vote for which action perspective would you do you think is a good idea, but also which action perspectives do you want to be involved in? Because we were very afraid that we would have a lot of people agreeing on a lot of things that should be done, but nobody actually doing it. So it's also very important to empower people that you want to involve. And that was fairly successful. So 4 of the 5 action perspectives were adopted by a working group. And that was the start of these groups developing their own agenda. So there was a group overall organization thinking about, okay, what do we want to end up with? So now we're the association Groen 10, but what do we want to become? There's a work group sharing knowledge. So how can we facilitate the need for people to meet more, to interchange, to exchange knowledge? And well, I'll tell a bit more about how we do that later. There's the work group visibility and value. With green initiatives, often they have the feeling they're overlooked by other people, and also sometimes they can't see themselves very well. So this was really about looking how can we support each other, and how can we develop an idea of who we are and how we can show our value to others. And here it was very helpful that there was in Wageningen University a diamond model was developed, among others by Alice here, and this Alice Bischoff, and this we really adopted this as a way to talk about our values, and also to talk about our values with other people, with other stakeholders. And the work group lobby. Everybody thought it was very important that we start lobbying more together. But at the same time, there was also a bit of the question, how do you do that? Yeah, let's keep it at that. I'll tell a bit more about how this developed later on. So as it is a living lab, it's also about learning. So how do you learn about an organizational process like this, and how do you keep track of it, and how do you keep track of the changes and what you learn over time? We try to keep records of every meeting we have. We try to see how the involvement of people grows or changes over time for each working group and for the network meetings. But also we have a planning which we update all the time, and you see that over time the task gets settled, but the future changes constantly. For every time we have a new network meeting, we rearrange a bit what we want to do and how we want to reach our goals for each working group. So it's also an iterative, repetitive process. So far, I'll talk a bit about what we learned so far from this. And the disclaimer is, of course, that we're still doing this. And it's important to understand the Rotterdam context. Like I said, there was already an existing informal network, actually several networks, also several attempts in the past to form a network. Edible Rotterdam was very much about edible and about food. And Groen 10 was very much about green initiatives. And what is also, I think, specific for the Rotterdam context, that there are a lot of initiatives that have been here for a longer period of time and that already have an idea, but also know each other. So what I felt personally, being involved in different initiatives myself, is also that what we are doing here is really trying to step over our differences and really say, okay, how can we work with these differences and with the different people and with all their experience? And one of the reasons that works so far is well, that's a general one. I actually didn't put that in the presentation, but is that because we know each other over a longer time, there's some sort of respect and there's some sort of idea. Okay, everybody who has been in this field for 10 years, they have something to offer. They might do something very different from someone else, and so there might be differences about what kind of vision, how you want to achieve it, but still, you know, okay, we've been in the same boat, we've met some of the same problems. So if you see at some of the lessons that we've learned so far, it's important to empower the network, to make sure that just by getting people together and having them talk about what they're worth and about their value, and the diamond model helps with that, you get more of a self-conscious approach. People become more aware of what they can and what they can't do. So that's an important one. Well, for the past quarter of an hour, I've been talking very much maybe very abstract about the process, about what we did, but it's very important to design a process, to have some idea of how you work with the different people involved, how you keep people involved, how you give them, make them both responsible, but also have the feeling that they are getting heard, and also keep it open-ended in the sense that you can change it over time. And another thing is that, of course, we started out with at the previous slide, you see the people from the coordination team. We spent a lot of time together, especially at the first years, to really talk about this. So we were very inward oriented, which you could see as a problem, but it also was necessary to make a base for starting to build it more outward. So take your time to grow in ever widening circles. The network meetings started to open up this field. Then the working groups again focused this around some people, some active people, but the working groups themselves are also again slowly involving other people. So that's important to let your network, your active network, grow slowly and give people time to join, also in different ways. And what you see here is just one session where we reconsider all the different connections between the working groups and with other stakeholders. So that's also something that takes time, and over time you see these connections or you reconsider them. And it's also important to engage people in different ways. Like the sharing knowledge group has started the green cafes, which is just where you visit a specific initiative, and there's time to talk with each other once a month on the Friday. So you get a small talk about the initiative, but there's also just time to drink something, there's something to eat. And as simple as it sounds, that is something we didn't have before. So it really serves a function also to get people together that didn't take time to meet each other or to see each other's initiative. So that's one basic way of engaging people. Another one is, of course, to have working groups, and also to allow working groups to set up themselves in different ways. They get within the Living Lab, they get a budget from us, but how they use it and how they work with different people within that's up to them. As long as they have a plan that they show to us and to the network, which is important at every network meeting, so that we know what they're up to. But how they do it and with who, that's quite open. And connected to that is also an inclusive approach to membership. We just last week we decided that we actually are going to be or maintain to be an association. So and then the next question is who can become a member? Should it be only social initiative? Should it be only green initiative, only edible initiatives? Where is the overlap? And we try to be as inclusive as possible. Also here we are a guest at an arboretum, which is a very old garden. It's an organization that has been there over 100 years, keeping an arboretum. But they are also reconsidering their role as a green institute or a green initiative in the city. So are they an initiative that should be included in EdiCitNet? Well, let's find out together. So we don't, as long as you have shared problems that you can work on together, there's a reason to work together and to network together and even become part of the association. Well, another bit of a cliche, but go with the flow. I mean, also our open process allowed also for things to happen that we didn't start as a coordination team, or that were not coming directly out of the network. Sorry, out of the self-research. So at one moment there were local elections again, and somebody made the initiative to write a manifest that could a manifest for collaboration, talking directly to the politicians, to the different political party, and say, okay, what we are here. We have a vision. We have experience and knowledge. Please let's collaborate so we can work together also on the goals that you as a municipality have for the next years. So that brought a whole dynamic, also working together with the municipality that we're still working on. So and that didn't fit in the action perspectives, but it fits very well in the overall goals of the Living Lab. So we adopted that and are still putting energy in having this dialogue with the municipality. And another thing that happened was that one of the people, or some people that were involved both in visibility and value and in the overall organization, had the idea, why not have a campaign? And inspired by London, we started a campaign, National Park Rotterdam. And the interesting thing was that at the same time, a local museum for natural history also had the same idea. They're also connected to city ecologists, and they promote urban ecology as a way of looking at the city. And they also had this idea of National Park Rotterdam. So now we're collaborating with them, and it's really becoming an interesting movement that in a broader sense tries to make people aware and engage people in edible city solutions and also green city solutions for Rotterdam. Yeah, I guess there's a lot of things I haven't talked about, which but we can discuss now in the questions section. It's still a work in progress, but yeah. So I hope to hear from you. Thank you very much.